Hi guys, it's Kelly Latevola here and I'm back with another video for Neat and Tangled. Today we are going to be using this Heartfelt Thanks Stamp Set because, well, honestly I can't get enough of it. And then later on we're going to be using the, what is it? The foliage one. Oh, why can't I think of the name of it? I just had it. What is it? Wait, stop. Foliage frame. Man, I'm losing my mind. Anywho, so I wanted to... I know you're going to be shocked when I say this. I wanted to do some pencil coloring. I have not been kidnapped. It really is me. So I prefer to do that on dark cardstock. So here I have just some navy blue cardstock. I am going to stamp this a couple of times in just clear, typically it's embossing ink, but you can do tone on tone stamping with it, and that is my purpose here with the background. So I stamped it once fully in the center of the background, so I knew that I would have enough room for it to fit once I colored all of it, because I'm going to actually die cut that part out, so I'll be stamping on a separate piece. But then I'm just going to move this around my MISTI randomly so that I can fill in those areas and create a very, very subtle tone-on-tone background using the same images. You certainly don't have to do it subtly. You could do it any way that you wanted to. It's a super fun technique to kind of create your own pattern paper. But because I wanted the coloring to be the star of the show, I didn't want anything that was too busy in the background. However, I also just didn't want a plain background because I have a plain background like 99.9% of the time. There was, just to note, there was one area of the MISTI that I actually did have to put that stamp on an acrylic block because I couldn't get it because of the hinges. So just FYI there. So now this is all covered. You can see that tone on tone look. I could have done a navy ink as well. That would have worked, but the clear embossing ink will work on any color cardstock. It works better on darker colors, FYI. So here I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm going to use it to do some no-line coloring. Again, I could have stamped this in a darker ink and still done the colored pencil technique that I'm going to do, but I decided that I was just going to do this because I would still be able to see the image and then it would look no line. So here I have a bunch of Prismacolor pencils. I have my little sharpener. I do like this one. It's a little handheld one. I'm going to show you this technique the way that it was taught to me, and then I'm going to show you the way that I do it, which is different. So the way that it was taught to me by Lydia Fiedler, who is an amazing artist. If you have not ever heard of her, visited her blog, her YouTube, she's an amazing person and very talented artist. She has great videos, would recommend. 5 stars, would recommend her as a friend and as an artist. So she taught this to me, and basically when you're coloring with colored pencil, you're filling in all of like the nooks and crannies in the paper, and that's what's going to build up the color and give you that super smooth look. So the way that she taught it to me was to do a layer of white, do my lightest color, do another layer of white, do my next darkest color, any shading that I want to add, do another layer of white. You're getting where this is going. So with each individual color you add, you're using the white to blend. Now you may think, well, like you're going to have an all white image. That's not true. You just keep building up the color. You want to use really light pressure. When you're coloring with colored pencil, your hand shouldn't hurt, and that was one of the things that I learned very early on that I was doing wrong, because my hand always did hurt. I was like death grip on this pencil and super pressure, and it shouldn't be that way. So I actually have to back my hand up the pencil, so it forces me to have a looser grip when I'm coloring. So if your hand hurts when you're coloring, try that. But then you just want to do a bunch of light layers and build that up so that everything is smooth and blended. Once those little nooks and crannies get filled up, the paper won't take any more color. So if you go in very heavy in the beginning, then it can't take any of the other shading that you put on top of it. It has nowhere to go. That pigment doesn't have anything left to fill. So when you're doing this, it has to be light layers. So here's how I actually do it now after Lydia has taught me. I don't do the white in between. I do the white as a base layer, and then I work out just like I do with my alcohol markers. I go from my lightest color out to my darkest, and then from the darkest back into my lightest, and I am happy with that result as well. I will tell you this, the way that I do it does cover, is very pigmented. It's very clear what your image is. The way Lydia does it makes it almost look luminescent, with all of that white built in there. But it already takes me about 500 years to do colored pencils. I started this card when Nathan was in first grade, and now we're 99 years old. Slightly over dramatization, but it takes me a really long time. This whole card probably took me about 2 hours, and really the only thing I did to it was color. So it's just probably just because I don't do it all the time. And I'm just not very fast at it. People who do this all the time probably are very fast at it, just like I am with my Copics. It doesn't take me as long to do my Copic coloring. But anywho, so you can see the little petals that come out from the ones that are on top. There's like a little blue gap. If you are doing them kind of like as you go, like side by side by side, it is kind of hard with no line coloring to make sure you fill that gap. But don't feel like you can't go back. There's a lot of times where I go back with my darkest colored pencil and just fill that in. Just because no line coloring is, it's not my comfort zone. It's easier for me to do with pencils than it is for me to do with markers. Because that blobby look that you start out with, like the stage we're at right now, where there's no shadows, there's no depth, it's just a big blob. When I do that with markers, it starts to kind of make me panic, a little panicky, about the way that it's going to come out. So here I'm going to show you a couple of petals, and then I had to cut it. I filmed the whole thing. I tried to leave it in for you, but even doing it at 4 times the normal speed, just the coloring of the sunflower was still a full 20 minutes. And we're at 30 for the whole video right now. So it had to go. It could not stay around. But anywho, so you'll want to, add that shading with those darker colors. Once you get comfortable with it, you can start to do multiple petals at a time. That's what I did. Once I did my first couple and I was really comfortable with the colors and the way that everything was kind of laying down, then I started coloring like every other petal white. I wanted to make sure to maintain those edges. It's really easy to lose them when everything's looking pretty blobby. But maintaining those edges is what gives you the separation so that your flower petal looks like a petal and it doesn't look like a big yellow blob. See what I'm saying? Got to add those shadows, keep those highlights. As far as rules about shadows and highlights, everything's the same as it is with markers. It doesn't matter what medium that you're using. If any point where 2 objects meet will be darker, any point where one object lies on top of another will be darker. I did not use a light source or anything like that with this card. It just wasn't that kind of card. I was just coloring for the sake of coloring. So I don't know what happens in fall. But it seems like that's, if I'm going to do a colored pencil card, that's pretty much when I decide that I'm going to go ahead and do it. And the only technique I ever do is this one. Probably because that's the only one Lydia taught me. Maybe the next time I see her, I have to be like, teach me more colored pencils. No, that's not true. I think I tried the Gamasol once. And Lydia actually is not, she's like my go-to. She's like my colored pencil guru. She doesn't actually use Gamasol. She uses orange oil, because it's not, a chemical, and it smells really good. It smells like citrus. So there's another little Lydia tip for you as far as blending them out with that. I don't necessarily mind the pencil strokes in this particular card. It didn't bother me. There are other times where I do want it to be more smooth, but then I typically don't reach for pencils. I just do my markers. But the nice part about the colored pencils is that you can do it on the darker cardstock. Not that you can't use Copics. on darker cardstock, but they aren't vibrant. They absorb into the paper, whereas pencils are wax-based and they sit on top of the paper. So that gives you, that vibrant look with the dark background, which is hard to achieve with really any other medium. So that's that. Everything's pretty much going to be the same technique. Like going throughout, I'll throw out a couple of little things that I learned about the different things I was doing. This particular flower has a very intricate center that was drawn into it, which is stunning, but I could not duplicate that. That was not possible for me to do with colored pencils. And because I stamped it in light ink, I had to make a choice about whether or not I was going to try to duplicate it or if I was just going to create a sunflower center. And I opted for 2, the latter. Option number 2, please. So I just filled it in. I did add shading around the outside edge, because that's where it would be darker. It would be lighter in the center. I did still use my white base. The only thing that I will note is when I did my darkest color, I actually outlined the base of the petals because I did not want it to look just like a flat circle, because it wouldn't be in real life. Where the petals would come in, that's where it would connect to the center, and it's not going to be a perfect circle. It's going to be a bit more haphazard. So I made sure to take that darkest color out, go around the petals, anywhere that there was darker shading on the petal to connect to those lines. And then here you'll see me turn my paper a lot, just so I can get the right angle so that it's coming in from all sides. Like the pattern of the brush strokes, the pencil strokes will all be coming in from the correct direction. So I feel like today's just going to be a random chat day. I don't even know what is happening in my life. I am so tired. I'm so tired. And I am so backed up on things. Like, I have straight up just completely neglected my blog. Like, real talk. I post the videos on YouTube, and then I don't even post them on my blog, which means that I don't share them on Instagram, which means I don't share them on Facebook, because I don't have the pictures uploaded to, well, that's not even true. They're all sitting there as drafts. I do have them uploaded. It just seems like so much effort, and I'm very overwhelmed with my life right now. There's just a lot going on. That's just, you know how it is. Sometimes you just get in those seasons of life, and the weather here has been horrendous. We had a snowstorm. I mean, I know that it's November. Okay, November in Ohio. I get that. That it's going to be cold and it's not going to be like 80 and sunny. But it was, what did it say yesterday? 21 degrees feels like 12. That's like January, February temperatures for us. That's not right out the gate heading. I mean, we're still in autumn. We're still in fall. But it did snow a considerable few inches. And then, I worked day shift all week this week. And me and day shift we're not friends. We don't really like each other. We're acquaintances, like we know of each other, but its reputation is not a good one. And I don't want to sit at the lunch table with it because it's early. That's pretty much what it comes down to. I'm so looking forward to Saturday and not having to get up super, super early. I mean, I'm still going to have to get up somewhat early because, life. Back to the card. So here I did want there to be some texture, some bumpies in the center of the sunflower. So that's what I'm doing. I'm taking the darkest color, I'm drawing some little dots, and then I'm just going to work my way in with each consecutive color as they get lighter, doing just the random dots. I'm not really looking to fill it in so much as just create that little bit of texture that you would see in the center of a flower. So that's what I'm doing there. And then I'm going to move on to these other flowers up here. So I'm going to show you parts of both of them. This first one is drawn from the side. And so I'm still doing that same base white layer, but it does not have individual petals like the sunflower does. So it makes it a little bit, it's like, take take it to the next level. So if like the sunflower is level 1 because it has very separated petals, then this is like a level 2 because not all the petals are separated. It's just not that type of flower, but you can break it out into segments, which is what I did. So I did each segment by itself, so that way I could control where the edges were, since I have no security blanket black outline to make sure I'm coloring where I'm supposed to be coloring. And again, just like I did with the sunflower one, I probably do go back, I don't know, between 3 and 5 times just to make sure that my shadows are darker, that all the lines are meeting up, that I don't have any like mushy blobby edges. And then for the yellows that I use, the lightest yellow really didn't move around the darker pigment too much. For the pinkish purple flowers, it definitely did. Putting that lighter color all over everything was definitely moving some pigment around and changing the way that it looked. So depending upon, you know, what color combination you have, it will be different. It will be different for, you know, how those colors react together, I guess. So anyway, back to my tired. So I've been just running. And then the weather's been bad and I've been working day shift. And it's just all around like, ugh. That's how I feel about it. And okay, this is a totally random thought, but every time I hear the commercial, I just want to be like, why? So there's a commercial on the radio right now for Panera, and they're on the big sell for coffee. And y'all know I love coffee. Y'all know I love Dunkin' Donuts. That's where it's at. I'm a DD girl for life. But so Panera is on this, you know, coffee people love coffee. Coffee people love coffee. Or I have to interrupt this commercial for talking about things. So the way this other flower is drawn is it is wide open. It's full bloom flower, which means it is basically a big blob. Okay, there's no separation between any of them. It's just drawn like a big blob. So what I would recommend that you do, which is what I did, is create your own segments. So I outlined everything where all of the lines were. And yes, I know I'm going to color it all in white, but I'm going to do it one piece part at a time. And I'm going to do it in the direction that I want that petal to come from the center. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I am also, for these particular flowers, because of the way that they are drawn, well, the way they grow in real life too, honestly, guys, they do have a little bit of like a flare, like a ruffled or a fluty edge that you can kind of play up with some lines and some shadows. So I am going to capitalize on those as well, just adding in those lines just so there's a little bit of movement. But I would caution you, when you're outlining your flower, make sure that you're getting all of the little dips in and little grooves and things like that, because it makes knowing where those lines will look natural so much easier when you have drawn the outline exactly as the artist has intended. So anyway, back to this Panera commercial that irks me. So they're like, coffee people love coffee, coffee people love coffee, all this stuff. And then she says, some coffee people love coffee first thing in the morning. And some coffee people love coffee at 3 when the day is almost done. This is what she says. At 3 when the day is almost done. Who do you know that their day is done at 3? I ain't even left work yet, y'all. And my day is almost done? What? Panera. Who are you talking to? Who are these people? And how do I become one of them? I want my day to be done at 3. Like, if you work at Panera, is your day done at 3? Because I will quit my job tomorrow if I could just be off work at 3 every single day and not have to just do work anymore. And I'm not even talking about like just working at Panera, like a regular job. I'm talking about like if I could just be done at 3 with everything, with letting the dogs out, with feeding them, with homework, with making dinner, with doing dishes, with doing laundry, with vacuuming, with all of the random things that crop up that you don't even know are going to be things that you have to deal with. Like, I don't know, when you're child takes it upon himself to make fruit punch in a thermos that has no straw, but has just a very wide, gaping mouth, and then proceeds to dump it all over himself on his carpet. Right? Like, okay, will my end of my day, 3 o'clock, I don't want to deal with that either. Which happened. Of course it did. On the cream-colored carpet. Thankfully, really, I gotta tell you, in case you don't have a carpet cleaner that you are enjoying, Spot Shot really works very well. That's a recommendation from me to you. But yeah, I'm just like, every time I hear it, I'm like, Panera. Dude, my day is just getting started at 3 o'clock. Like, we're amping up for whatever's going to be happening at home. It is not over. And consequently, I'm a coffee person who has to drink coffee in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. And then into the wee hours, because I'm up card making. Which is, that I will take. I could do that job after 3 o'clock if I had to. I could, yes. So anyway, this coloring is all done. I'm just going to go over that center with the yellow to give it a center. And then I'm using the same darker brown pencil that I used for the sunflower to put the stamen back in the center. As far as the leaves went, my original intention, I'm be real with y'all, my original intention was to do the leaves 2 different colors. Was to do some teal ones and then to do some green ones. But I just didn't have it in me, y'all. I just didn't. I had been coloring this for 2 days, for multiple hours, and I didn't want to have to worry about coming up with another color combination. So even though the leaves are colored differently, and they are because they're 2 different types of leaves, I did color them the same color, and I have no regrets. I have none. No regrets. I'm not mad about it. I am not mad about it. As far as the shading for the leaves, I really just did the lightest to, put down the white base, lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest. As far as the little ones go, the bigger sunflower leaves is drawn with more of a pattern. So when I did this one, I outlined it, again, paying attention to all those, little turns, curvatures, all of those things. I'm going to fill it all in. And then this one is drawn with some lines in it. And I am going to put those back in with the pencil so that detail is there. And then there will be lighter sections and darker sections. That was, I guess, the intention of the illustrator, because there are multiple lines in there in the original drawing. Now, I'm sure I didn't nail it as far as, keeping the lines exactly where they were before, because I've colored them all up. But I think it's totally fine, because as long as they're in there and they're giving that added level of detail, I'm good with it. So anywho, yeah, Panera, I don't like your new commercial, because I'm a coffee person who needs coffee 24/7. I should have it intravenously, honestly. I should let somebody tap a vein and they can just pour that high octane in there all the time. That'd be glorious. So yeah, just working a lot. What did we do? Like today, I came home, Peanut got home from school. We're super into this Common Core situation, which is a whole another conversation. And then spelling is a big thing, but he does at least enjoy, I think, the spelling portion of it. So, he's on a kick right now where he's super hot to be like, how do you spell name? How do you spell, I don't know, crash? How do you spell whatever? And then so we're learning other words besides his spelling words. And just like the other day, I had some cards that I had made, and he got up. I had done, you'll see, it's another video, but I had done some things, and I had made 4 different ones, and he was like, I want to make this card. Now, we had only been up for like 15 minutes, but he was like, I want to make this card, and I was like, okay, and it was some ink blending, and so we sat through and made it, and then he wanted to send it to Nan. He wanted to send it to Nana, so we got an, envelope, stamp, all of that stuff, and then he self-addressed it. I had to spell everything, out for him, but he's super into the spelling and the writing right now, which is great. I hope he becomes an avid reader, because I am, and I love books so much. Love them. I die cut out that piece, that floral piece, once the coloring was done. Here I am going to white heat emboss my sentiment on that same color navy cardstock. Now for the foliage frame set, there is die cuts for it, but it's more for like the branches. It's not for the sentiments, which is no big deal, because I came from the time when there weren't dies for everything, and so I'm very well acquainted with the fussy cutting. So here I'm just going to sprinkle on this white embossing powder. I'm going to get rid of all the extra. It was actually a pretty clean application. I was pretty happy with it. And then just heat set that until it is all clean and white, all melty and smooth and pretty. And then I did have a little bit of an issue with my H. So I will fix that with a white gel pen. That's my embossing tip for you. Fix your embossing with a gel pen. It will be opaque, it will cover, and it's super easy to trace sentiments with it. But anywho, so I'm just going to fussy cut this out. I'm going to leave a little blue border around it. I'm right hand dominant, so I move the paper with my left hand and hold the scissors straight with my right hand so that I get a super smooth cut. Once that is done, I'm going to start just kind of looking around for placement wise where I want to put it. Do I ever make a card that I don't put the sentiment in the bottom right hand corner? Probably maybe 5% of the time that sentiment ends up somewhere else, but usually bottom right hand side. Bottom right hand third is what I should say, because that's more accurate. Here I had like a little foam piece that I didn't realize was hanging over the edge that totally was, and I needed to fix. So I'm going to pop this up on the foam tape right in the center of the card. I did not place it perfectly where I stamped it. The stamping was just to make sure that I would have enough room for all of the things. And then here, because none of this hangs off of the actual colored portion, I'm just going to glue it right on top. I was feeling like with the sentiment placed here, the top right hand side was a little bare. It needed a little something. So I'm actually going to use, oh, here's me fixing the sentiment. I'm going to use some clear sequins to just kind of fill in that gap and direct the eye. You don't have to. Looking at it now, maybe it wasn't necessary. I'm not sorry I put the gemstones on there, or the rhinestones on there, because I think that they're pretty and hello, shine. But yeah, so just to fill in some of that area, I guess, that felt a little bit bald, it needed a little bit of something. So putting that down, and then I'm going to use this just clear, it's just a clear glitter pen, but it's almost like when it goes over the wax, because the wax is repelling the moisture, it makes the colors look super vibrant. I almost wish it would stay that way. It doesn't. It eventually dries down, and then the colors go back to being more matte. Here I just wanted to show you, this is the card that I made the last time, and just how different this stamp set looks depending upon the technique you use or the color combo you use. It's really very versatile, and it's a beautiful set. So that is it. That is the entire card. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.